Thank you. Home of the legendary first in the South primary. We kept it that way. You know that. We kept it that way. First in the South. In 2016, South Carolina gave us 44 out of 46 counties. That's not so bad. It's a record. That was on primary day, and I can't wait to win all 46. We want to do 46 this year. February 24. I want to thank South Carolina GOP Chairman Drew McKissick, good friend of mine. He's done a fantastic job, and we appreciate it, Drew, wherever you may be. Drew, thank you very much. What a great job he's done. Also, we want to thank your amazing governor. You know, when I wanted some people to endorse me in 2015, and I said, who's that lieutenant governor? He looks pretty good. We skipped over somebody else very quick. His name's McMaster. He's got a fabulous family, a fabulous wife. I said, I got to get his support if we have his support. And I got his support. And I'll tell you what, he worked about 30 hours a day. And Peggy was with him. I'll tell you that. And they worked, and we ended up winning, and we had his support. And he's my friend, and he's been a really great governor. And I just want to thank you very much. Henry and Peggy, thank you very much. You have really been a great governor, too. And he actually kept his state open, you know, unlike some people that say, gee, you kept it open. No. A lot of beaches were closed. The place was closed and locked up. You did a great job. A friend of mine and a guy who really understands politics. I think he understands politics better than anybody. That's why he keeps getting elected once. And I'll tell you something, you have a good man. He's a good man, and he loves you, and he loves this state. He's controversial, a little bit like I am. We maybe don't always agree on everything, but he's got a little controversy, but he's smart as hell, and he does a fantastic job for your state. Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, thank you, Lindsey. Thank you. And he does a great job. And he's been with me, and I appreciate it. Solves a lot of problems, this man. Also, you have some incredible representatives that have been with me from the beginning. Joe Wilson. Where's Joe? Joe Wilson. I love it. I never forget his little outburst. Nobody knows what I'm talking about with that word, that little outburst. Where is Joe? He stood up. Where the hell are you, Joe? He stood up and he spoke from the heart. And we love him. Thank you, Joe. William Timmons. William, thank you, William. Thank you. Great job. And somebody that came in on the fly, and he's Fry. Russell Fry. Where's Russell? He went in and he did a job. Thank you, Russell. And he really has, those two guys and that whole group that I mentioned, they're warriors. Every one of them is a warrior, all different, all very different people, different forms of fight. But they're all warriors. And another warrior is your Lieutenant Governor, Pamela Evett. Pamela, great job. And former Lieutenant Governor, terrific guy, Andre Bauer. Andre. Attorney General Alan Wilson. Secretary of State, Mark Hammond. Superintendent of Education, Ellen Weaver. Friend of mine, Treasurer Curtis Loftus. Curtis, thank you. And National Committeeman Glenn McCall, Committeewoman Cindy Costa. State Representatives Daniel Gibson, Heather Crawford, Cal Forrest Jr., and Ambassador Ed McMullen. He's been with me from the beginning, too. Last but not least, today I'm honored and really honored to receive the endorsement of the Speaker of the South Carolina House, a man that's respected by everybody, a great guy with a fabulous wife and family. Representatives, Merrill Smith, please. Where is Merrill, please? Great job. Thank you very much. You've done a great job. We appreciate it. Merrill Smith. Also, one of the most important issues of the campaign will be who can rescue our country from the burning wreckage of Bidenomics. You know what that stands for, right? Henceforth, it'll be defined as inflation, taxation, submission, and failure. Under my leadership, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world. We actually built the greatest economy in the history of the world, and you were a big beneficiary in South Carolina. In fact, we did it twice. And when I get back in the Oval Office, and I always say we because we're getting back. It's not me, it's we. But we will do it once again, and it'll be bigger and better and stronger than ever before with all of the things you're watching, and it's horrible. I looked at New York City last night with what's going on there. I look at Chicago. I look at all of these different places, all run by Democrats, by the way. Not Henry, all run by Democrats. Henry, you must go crazy when you see the incompetence and the stupidity, but all run by Democrats. But day one, the Biden economic bust will be replaced with the historic Trump economic boom. We're going to have a boom like beyond what we had, and we had the best ever recorded. Any numbers you see that are economically positive right now in the Biden administration are because they're running on the fumes of what we created years prior to their taking office. We created something that was so incredible, and they're running on fumes right now because what they've done is unbelievable and so bad and so foolish and so stupid. The contrast between our agenda's incredible success and Joe Biden's crushing economic failures could not have been more stark. Let's look at some of the facts comparing crooked Joe Biden, and he is crooked as hell. Boy, do you believe what's going on? Lindsay, what's going on with this guy? He's crooked. Now we have to do something about it. They do, we don't. We got to do something about it. I think it's up to $32 million so far they've caught, $32 million. And that's peanuts, that's what they've caught. And Jamie Comer and Jim Jordan have done an incredible job in their committees. They really have been finding out. And they're being blocked every way along the way, but they don't care. They're going, and they've got a lot more, and they tell me and they tell everybody. You just watch them. They say there's much more to come, and it's really bad. Let's look at the facts comparing crooked Joe Biden and President Donald J. Trump. Under Biden, real incomes have gone down by $7,400 per family. Think of that. And under President Trump, yearly income went up on average $6,000. Nobody's ever come close to that number. During Biden's first 30 months in office, just 2.1 million new jobs were created. And by contrast, during my first 30 months in office, we created 4.9 million new jobs, a record, millions and millions more. Experts predicted, by the way, that we'd have a much lower number. We had a record number. Under Bidenomics, gas prices are again nearing $4 a gallon. Do you see what's happening? Your gas is going up, everybody. Your cars are going to have to get smaller. And then they're forcing you into all electric. Does everybody like the idea of all electric and you can drive for 1 hour? So crazy. These people are crazy. But gas prices are again nearing $4 a gallon. And for much of Biden's term, you have to remember, Americans have paid $5, $6, and $7 a gallon. And you're coming up and you're coming back to those prices again. You know, we did a great job in filling up the strategic reserves. And now he's just decimating. We have the lowest level, I think, ever recorded. And that's not meant to keep gasoline prices down for an election. That's meant for war, that's meant for military, that's meant for major emergency, and they use it just to try and keep it down, but they're almost out. It's almost down right to the bottom. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And if you look at your energy costs and your gasoline prices, they're going up, and they're going up very fast, and inflation has reached the highest level in half century, and mortgage rates are now pushing a brutal 7%, and they are going much higher. Americans now have to pay $366,000 more in interest payments just to purchase a house. So you purchase a house, it's going to cost you almost $500,000 more in interest payments. When I was your president, the 30-year mortgage rate reached a record low of 2.65%. Doesn't that sound good? Doesn't that sound good? Inflation was less than 1.9%, and we had gasoline down to $1.87 a gallon. Under crooked Joe Biden, the radical Democrat communists have piled over $10,000 of job-killing regulatory costs onto the backs of every single American household. And they did this in less than 3 years. By contrast, under the Trump administration, we cut the cost of job-killing regulations by an amazing record number, $11,000 per household. You know, little things like your sink. You know, you buy a sink and no water comes out because they have regulators on the water. Even if you're in a state where water comes out of heaven all day long, doesn't make any difference. When you take a shower, I like to have, you know, I have this gorgeous head of hair. When I take a shower, I want water to pour down on me. When you go into these new homes with showers, the water drips down slowly, slowly. You have suds, beautiful, nice, wonderful suds, a lot of money, Procter & Gamble, all that crap that they say is good. Probably cost them about 2 cents and they sell it for $10. But you can't, it takes you 10 minutes to wash your hair. You know what you do? You just stay in the shower about 10 times longer than you would have. It's the same. You probably use more water. I broke all that up. I opened it up. Your sinks, everything. They had dishwashers where the head of Whirlpool came to see me. They were in serious trouble in Ohio. And they said, we don't have any water. They don't let us use water. He holds up a little glass and he says the bottom of the glass is water. That's what we're allowed for washing machines and dishes. And I said, that's crazy. So I immediately broke it up. We opened it up, and people got the greatest washing machines and dishwashing machines and everything. And we opened up the showers. We opened up everything. And, you know, you're talking about, for the most part, states that have so much water, they don't know what the hell to do with it. And we did a great job. He goes in almost immediately after he gets into office. He ended up putting the restrictors back on, all restrictors. So now you can go buy a new home and you can't wash your hands. It's really a terrible thing. But we'll open up. That was one little thing that were really just a few. It's just like with the electric cars where, you know, in a short period of time, everybody's going to have electric. You know who that's great for? China, because they make all the electric cars. We have gasoline. They have all of the other minerals and everything else in their earth that are good for electric cars. They are going to take over the world with the stupidity. You know, we have an economy that I had going at a level that nobody's ever seen before, and they were really concerned. We were always going to be caught by China in 2018. When 2018 came along, we were so far beyond them, I said that if presidents are smart, they will never be able to catch us. We were doubling them up. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars in taxes and tariffs. They never saw anything like it. They said, this guy, this is not one president ever charged them for decades 10 cents of anything. They were ripping us off, just like most other countries of the world. They were ripping us off. It's actually hard to believe how we survived, but of course you have $35 trillion in debt, and we were going to do so much with energy that we were going to pay off a lot of that debt because if you ever took a look at Saudi Arabia and some of these oil-producing nations, the kind of money that they make is astronomical. Well, we have more oil, I call it liquid gold, oil and gas, liquid gold under our feet than any other nation in the world by far. Did you know that? And we were going to supply all of Europe. We were going to supply everybody. We were going to make so much money, we'd pay off debt, and then we'd lower taxes again. We had the biggest tax cut in history. We were going to lower taxes still further. And then these guys get in because an election was rigged. They get into office, and what do? Let's stop drilling. Oil prices at the highest price ever, and they say, let's stop drilling. When oil prices are high, that's when you should say, let's drill and make a fortune, and let's pay off debt, and let's lower people's taxes. But they didn't do that. Joe Biden immediately shut down, first thing, almost the first day, shut down the Keystone XL pipeline, surrendered our energy independence and future dominance. We're going to be dominant we were going to produce more oil and gas than Russia and Saudi Arabia combined. And when I took over, we were in third place. When I left, we were long in first place. We were like a rocket ship. When you look at the graphs, we have them, and I'd show them to you. If you want to see me afterwards, I'll give them to you personally. But please don't say that because you got a lot of people in this room up there. It's a lot of people. Congratulations, Drew. But now he's pushing the largest tax hike in American history. I don't know if you know that, but your taxes are going to go way, way up. President Trump got you the biggest tax cuts and regulatory cuts in history by far, and we achieved American energy independence for the first time in 60 years. And we were soon going to be energy dominant for the first time ever. We're going to be dominant. We're going to be dominant all over the world. And they stopped it. They stopped. And I fought for the workers of South Carolina like no president has ever fought before. And I appreciate, Henry, you're saying that. But it was very important to me. You know, we ran twice in the state. We won twice by a lot. We won both primaries. Now we're going to do it again, and this will be the single biggest and most important election in the history of our country, maybe in the history of the world, because we're going to turn our country around, because our country right now and our leader right now is an embarrassment. He can't put two sentences together. He can't speak. I watch. Everybody's on, even me, I'm watching. I say, oh, this guy, he can't talk. And, you know, when you look, I got to know these world leaders, President Xi, Macron of France, all these big leaders, every one of them. Kim Jong-un of North Korea, oh, sir, he's got a lot of nuclear weapons. I did a great job in North Korea. You didn't have any problems, right? But then you're having a problem now because he's not so happy. But all these leaders, and Putin would have never gone in as an example, would have never in a million years, not even a thought of going into Ukraine. Wouldn't have happened. I told him you're not going in. We got along good. Nothing wrong with getting along. We got along good, but he wasn't going in. They had no chance. And by the way, China would not be going in. President Xi would not be going into Taiwan, and he's awfully close to wanting to go in because he thinks your leader is incompetent. He has no respect for our country anymore. He respected our country so much. He was so afraid of me with the tariffs. No more tariffs, please. No more tariffs. Please. Please, no more tariffs. Stop it. You know, when I first put the tariffs on, we took in hundreds of billions of dollars. I gave $28 billion to the farmers. But when I first put the tariffs on, China, very smart, by the way, sharp. Oh, the press hates when I say, you shouldn't say they're sharp. No, they got 1.4 billion people. They have a man that controls that very, very strongly. But when I say that, yes, he's an intelligent man, they say, President Trump said he's intelligent. Yeah, he's intelligent. He's so intelligent that he's been ripping off our country for years and years and years. And we had it done to a level, but they pretended the tariffs didn't matter. No, we don't care about tariffs. And I was shocked, you know, so I said, all right, if they don't care, let's raise it from 25% to 50%. We never had a tariff, you know. They tariff us. If we sell something into China, they tariff the hell out of us, right? So they say, no, we don't care about it. We don't care because they're smart, you know, just like the Democrats, what they go, misinformation, disinformation, that's what they are. They're a party of disinformation. We want to run against Trump. Well, if they did, they wouldn't have every DA in the nation. They wouldn't have all these people. If they wanted to run against Trump, they'd say, please, come on, step up to the plate. And by the way, virtually every poll, we're kicking Biden's ass. And that's the problem. That's the problem. And if I wasn't, we wouldn't be under investigation by deranged Jack Smith. He's a deranged human being. You take a look at that face, you say, that guy is a sick man. There's something wrong with him. Somebody said, why don't you be nice to him? I said, yeah, wouldn't matter. Wouldn't matter. This guy's a maniac. They gave me a maniac. They gave him the nicest man in the world. You know the boxes hoax, right? The boxes hoax. This guy's got 1,850 boxes, Lindsay. He's got boxes in Chinatown. He's got boxes in his garage by the Corvette, where the house is run by Hunter. I wonder what happened with those boxes. And he's got boxes at Penn all over the place. But all they care about is Trump. And you know what? I'm under the Presidential Records Act, which is a big deal. He's under nothing. He didn't have it because he was a vice president. The Presidential Records Act says I can do whatever I want. I did the right thing. No, it's just a hoax. These guys, what they're doing with this election interference, and the Senate has to step up and do something. The House is doing a lot of things. But the Senate, under perhaps the worst leader in the history of our country running the Senate, Mitch McConnell, has to step up and do something because they have done They have done, and you have some good ones, and that guy right there is trying very hard. He's working hard, but they need a lot of other people. And they better do, and stop just handing out money every time. 1.7 trillion to the Democrats, and they get 10 votes. I'm telling you, Lindsey, they have something on Mitch McConnell. There's no way that he's doing this. They've got something on Mitch McConnell. It's a terrible thing that's happening with that guy and with the whole. They got to step up. The House is stepping up. They're working hard, and they are stepping up. And I think a lot of things are happening, but we'll see. I withdrew from the job-killing Trans-Pacific Partnership. I withdrew from the unfair Paris Climate Accord. This was the greatest ripoff. We had to pay billions of dollars, billions and billions of dollars, and China didn't have to pay anything. Russia didn't have to pay anything. India didn't have to pay anything. You know why? Because they're developing countries. They said, we're a developing country, too. Did you see New York 2 nights ago? Did you see Chicago? We're a developing country, too. We're a disaster country right now, and it's a real sad thing what's happening to America, I will tell you. I ended the worst trade deal in history, NAFTA. This was the worst trade deal ever. Everybody said, you'll never get it ended. I got Congress to end it and replaced it with the best trade deal this country has ever made, the USMCA, the best trade deal ever made. And it's so good, in fact, that Mexico and Canada are now trying to renegotiate the deal with the Biden administration. And I would think that they have a good chance. All they have to do is see Hunter and work it out. It would be good. I mean, I think it's really good. But think of it, I gave the farmers $28 billion. You know, we talked about Iowa. We could talk about South Carolina, but we talk about Iowa and Nebraska farm states. I said, there's no way I lose Iowa. There's no way I lose any of them, including, I say, Wisconsin, because I gave the farmers $28 billion, which is the amount of money that China ripped off from our farmers over a 4-year period of time. I got them checks for $28 billion. I said, there's no way that anybody else would have been able to do that, except maybe Henry McMaster. He might be the only. Henry, you would have been able to do it. But we gave him $28 billion. I said, there's no way we lose Iowa, and we're way up in Iowa. We're up like by 40 points or something. We created nearly 20,000 South Carolina manufacturing jobs in just 3 years, a record that maybe will be broken someday, but I don't think so very quickly, which everyone said could not be done, Henry, and you were a big part of it. You know that, right? I want to take full credit, so I don't like giving, but I like this guy so much, I'm giving him all this credit. You do have a great governor and a great first lady. And we delivered $140 million to ensure that Charleston has the deepest water port on the East Coast. And to that I say, Henry, do you want to make it the deepest water port in the entire world? Would you like to do that? We'll make it a little deeper, Henry, if you want. Henry would call me, we need some money to deepen the port. Oh, how much would that cost? About, $4 billion. Oh, that's great, Henry. Thank you. I appreciate it. But we have the deepest on the whole East Coast, and we might even work on it. Make it a little deeper. We'll make it the deepest in the country, and then it's the world. First it's the country, and then it's the world. But it's been a tremendous success, and it's an honor to have been involved. Crooked Joe Biden cares only about enriching his own family, as you probably have heard. I care about enriching your family. I gave up a lot to do this job, I'll tell you. I gave up a lot to deal with these thugs. You know what I get? Because I've done a good job, I get to deal with thugs. So as soon as we get back in the White House, I will end the disaster known as Bidenomics, and we will once again implement the proven economic formula that puts America first. We're going to put America first. They don't put America first. And very quickly, our economy will be great again, and our country will be absolutely, like I say, fairly quickly, like never before. We'll get it to a level that we had it up to, and we'll do things that nobody will believe. And, one of the good things about not having, not a lot of good when you look at millions of people pouring into our country every day, totally unchecked, and all of the horrible things that are happening with inflation and everything. But one of the things that is positive is that for 4 years, we've watched the most incompetent people and the most incompetent and corrupt president we've ever had destroy our country. and we'll be able to do things that we maybe never would have been able to do had we just done it the traditional way. We'll be able to do because they see the crime, they see all of the things, they see people walking into stores, thugs walking into stores, hundreds of young people walking into a department store, walking out with everything in the store, and then they announce they're going to close the stores in different cities. I won't even mention them, but you know the same cities. And we're going to close the stores because it's no longer economically viable. They walk out, and you know the law enforcement is great, the police are great, they know exactly how to stop it, but they're not allowed to do it. They don't want to lose their pension, they don't want to lose their wife, they don't want to lose their husband, they don't want to lose all of the things that they're threatened. Don't do anything. They actually fire employees who fight with people. Please don't steal that. And they'll fire the employee. There's something crazy going on in our country. But we'll stop that, and we're going to stop it on day one. We'll terminate every Biden regulation that's harming South Carolina workers, of which there are many. And I will cancel Biden's destructive Green New Deal. It's an insane thing. I'm for the environment. I want clean water, crystal clean. I want beautiful, clean air. But what they're doing to this country is incredible. They're destroying our shores, our oceans. They're putting windmills all over the place. In New Jersey, they'd never had whales coming up shore. They might have one every 3 or 4 years. Now it's like routine. Whales, big, magnificent whales are being washed up on shore like nothing. It's so sad to see, and everybody knows the reason. Everybody knows the reason. To terminate this crippling electric vehicle mandates, we're going to do it. We're going to do it fast, and we will stop having all of these cars being built in China. We're building our cars back here. We're going to build them back here. They want to take that whole thing away from you like they did with Mexico and like they did with a lot of other places. I'll ask Congress to make the Trump tax cuts permanent. You know, your tax cuts that we got you, the biggest tax cut in history, you know, it pretty much is going to be coming due in a very short period of time. And when that happens, your taxes are going to go through the roof. That'll be a terrible thing, and that's given to you as a gift from the Democrats. Remember that. But we will reduce taxes even further. We'll get it extended, and we will reduce taxes further, because the thing that built our economy with the regulation cuts and those tremendous tax cuts, the incentive for people to work, and they don't have the incentive right now. Nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody knows. Nobody has any. They have no clue. They announce employment numbers which sound good, 3.5%, but nobody's looking for a job. So they're fake numbers. In other words, they don't include these people. They're fake. I spoke with Larry Kudlow. He said, it's so sad what they're trying to get away with. The whole thing with these people is a con. It's a con. It's like a con job. It's disinformation. Like Russia, disinformation. It's all disinformation. These are crooked people. These are very bad people, and they're very dangerous people. To bring tens of thousands more manufacturing jobs back to South Carolina, I will impose a border tariff on all foreign-made goods. So if they want to sell into our country, and if they want to take our jobs by doing that, we're going to have a tax that's going to be a privilege tax. And this has happened before. You know, in the 1890s, we had a president who was extremely strong on exactly what I'm talking about right now. We had an unbelievably profitable country. We had a country that had so much money, they actually had a commission set up. How do we spend our wealth? They had so much money coming in. I don't know if you know this, Lindsay, it's an incredible part of our country. That's when we built the dams and the this and that, we built everything. And that was an amazing age. What happened is we had commissions set up how to spend our wealth. We had so much wealth because we charged people for the privilege of selling into our country. They want to sell into our country. You have to pay to do that. And it'll also pass what's called the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act. And I don't want to get Lindsey Graham in trouble, but he told me that this is not like he's sitting there saying, oh, please don't say. He doesn't know what I'm going to say. But I don't want to get him in trouble. But I thought it was really sort of incredible. I said, Lindsey, I want to pass a Reciprocal Trade Act because we have countries that in order to do business in those countries, we have a 200% tariff, a 250%, 100%, a 50%, massive, massive numbers, so that our factories in South Carolina can't really sell it to these other countries because they have a tax. So what I want to do is called the Reciprocal Trade Act. If they charge us a tax, we charge them a tax. He said, well, you know, it's very interesting. So you're saying that, because again, this is not, he's got some incredible strengths, but this is not something that he considers to be his strength. He said to me, so you're saying that if they charge us 100%, we charge them 100%? I said, that's right, Lindsey. He said, you got my vote, 100%. And he did. We had his vote. But we had other senators that were very stupid. I said to one who's no longer with us, happens to come from the state of Pennsylvania. I won't mention his name. But I'd say to him, Senator, let me ask you, China's charges us like 175% tariff on certain products. We charge nothing to them. They just dump it in this country. Do you think we could charge them 100% tariff? No, sir, that wouldn't be free trade. I said, oh, what about 75%? No. They're at 175%. We're at 75. What about 50%? What about 10%? No, sir, you can't do it. I said, he's either the dumbest son of a bitch I've ever seen, or there's something going on. There's something going on. We're going to do a Reciprocal Trade Act because the entire world rips off the United States of America. And by the way, one of two things, and Lindsey understands this, he understood it very quickly, and he did, I swear. Do you remember that conversation? He said, so you mean that's what they do? They do that, and we do this? It sounds good to me. You got my vote, right? But we don't have other people's votes, and you often wonder why, because it doesn't get any simpler. We're talking about solving this massive deficit problem, and one of two things would happen. Either they'd stop charging the tax, and then we would stop, or we'll take a hell of a lot of money into our coffers. So it's very simple. I don't know if you know, you've been watching Live Golf, and a lot of the golfers, I'm friends with a lot of the golfers, and I got a lot of credit for this, actually, which is unusual for the press. They'd call me, they'd say, sir, I was offered $185 million to leave the tour and go with Live. I said, take the money. But sir, what about my legacy? I said, don't worry about your legacy, take the money. Your legacy's going to be just fine. You'll be known as a very smart person. And this particular person took the money, and others took the money. A lot of them took the money. And then they announced a merger. And many of them didn't take the money. And I said, take the money, because there's only three things that can happen. Live would fail, Live would succeed, or Live would merge. And in any event, it's all cash. It's not paid like, we'll give you your money back over the next 250 years. It's a cash, it's a check. And those guys that took the money are very, very smart people, and they're very rich people. And others, a lot of them, a week before the merger, as I understand it, they turned down hundreds of millions of dollars. And then they hear, we're going to merge. They say, oh man, did we just blow it? So a lot of this stuff is common sense. These border taxes, we're going to have to do it. Our country can become immediately rich, so rich like never before, and look back into the 1890s, look back into we were taking in money, and it's not so different. It's a long time ago, but that's when we ran our country smart. The problem is we have so many lobbyists and people that want China to do well, and they don't care about us, or they want other countries to do well, and they couldn't care less about us. One thing with me, I care about this country, and I care about you, and we're going to do it right. We're going to do it right. And we'll gain total independence from China, and we'll hold the Chinese Communist Party accountable for unleashing the horrible China virus upon the world. They're going to have to do something. They're going to have to do something. They'll do something. Like Mexico, they gave us 28,000 soldiers. Everybody said, oh, you didn't get money for the war. I said, yes, I did. No, you didn't get money for I said, no, we built the wall. We built almost 500 miles. We got money. What do you mean we didn't get money? They gave us 28,000 soldiers free of charge. 28,000! That's more than giving us a couple of bucks for a wall. They guarded our border for a long time, 28,000. And everybody thought when I asked for that it was ridiculous. I tell the story a lot where the very wonderful woman that from the State Department, but she never got anything. She was in charge of Mexico for like 25 years. She said, sir, you won't get that. I said, course we'll get it. Why wouldn't we get it? I said, I want 28,000 soldiers to guard our border while we're building the wall. We're building the wall. And the people from Mexico, the meeting was set up. And I happen to like the president of Mexico a lot. He's a socialist, but you can't have everything. But I like him. I like him. But very different, but I like him. Great guy. But they said, no, we wouldn't give. Why would we give that? They were laughing at me. I said, no, you're going to give it 100%. Why do you say that? You're going to give it. No, we're not going to give 28,000 soldiers free of charge. What? He looked at me like there's something wrong. I said, no, you will give it. And also, we need a couple of other things, like you stay in Mexico. So these criminals coming in will now stay in Mexico. Congratulations, and stay in Mexico. Catch and release. We're going to release them, but we're going to release them in Mexico, not in our country. You know, right now we have catch and release where we release them because Biden broke up these unbelievable deals that took a lot of guile to make with Mexico. So he said, we're not going to give you 28,000 soldiers, sir. We're not going to give you any soldiers. I said, yes, you are. So I said, come on over, let's talk. You're going to do it. So I explained it to him once more, and I had the State Department people sitting there, and they were sort of smiling because they knew I wouldn't be able to win. I said, give us 28,000 soldiers. He said, no. I said, here's what I'm doing on Monday morning. We're putting a tariff on every single car made in Mexico coming into the United States of 25%, and every single product made in Mexico that comes into the United States a 25% tariff. This is going to be 5 times more than the cost of these soldiers. So you have 10 minutes to let me know. You're going to give me the soldiers. You're going to get rid of catch and release. We're going to have catch and release is called in Mexico. And we're going to do all of these things, including our medical solution. You know all about that Biden ended. What this man is doing to the country, he's either the dumbest human being alive, and I think, honestly, I do believe it's run not by him, all of this stuff. How can you cheat on an election so well and be dumb? How can you do that? But he's surrounded by Marxist communists, and they're smart. But they're either evil or they don't know. But I really believe they hate our country because nobody can allow this to happen. So I said, we want the 28. He said, well, you're going to charge us that? Yes. And then it's going to go up a lot in a very short period of time. But you're going to be paying us billions and billions and billions of dollars. You know, they stole our car industry. They took 32% of the cars that we made in this country are now made in Mexico. None during my time, because I had that stopped. Any car company that wants to go to Mexico or another country, they had a lot of problems. They didn't do it. I had it stopped. But then you have a bad election, and a lot of bad things happen. So he comes back. I gave him 10 minutes. He came back at about 4. Sir, it'd be such an honor, sir, to give you 28,000 soldiers. We want to give you 28,000 soldiers, so we can have them there immediately. And we got 28,000 soldiers for nothing for years. And we stopped drugs coming in, and we stopped human trafficking at a level. We had the safest border in the history of our country as we were building the wall. We built hundreds of miles of wall. And then we said, we completed that, and then we said, let's build another 200 miles because we saw areas where it was really bad. And we had that whole structure was built. All they had to do was install it. Would have taken 3 weeks, and they unfortunately took over. And they refused to put the wall up, and then they actually took the wall because Texas and Arizona wanted to put it up. They refused to give it to them, and they actually took it and they toted it far away where they couldn't get to it. It was made, the wall was all made and ready to go up. So we did hundreds of miles. We had the safest border in history, and it's so sad to see what's happening when you see mental institutions, when you see all of these people pouring into this country. It is such a sad thing to watch. It's so sad what's happening to our country. There's never been anything like it. To stop this inflation catastrophe that's hanging down and destroyed many nations, we're going to bring down the cost of energy, and we're going to become energy independent. We're going to become dominant. We will be dominant. We were ready to be dominant and dominate Saudi Arabia and Russia. We were going to be twice as big as Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. But we're going to be there very, very quickly. As soon as we get in, we're going to be there very, very quickly. And our cry is going to be drill, baby, drill. And you're going to see prices come plummeting, and you're going to see inflation disappear. And especially after U.S. debt was just downgraded this week. You saw that. Just downgraded in a historic disaster. We have to aggressively roll back Joe Biden's socialist spending spree. He's spending money on things that are only going to be bad for us, really bad things. Very, very few of those, they call it infrastructure. It's not infrastructure. It's not infrastructure as you know infrastructure. What they're doing is so bad. If we simply returned to the amount of government spending that we had under my leadership in 2018, we would right now have a balanced budget. Did anybody know that? You know, if we went back just a few years, we would have a balanced budget, and we were getting ready to have a balanced budget, and then we got hit with a thing called the China virus, and we had other things to focus on. That was a terrible time for this country. That was a terrible time for the world, and we did a hell of a job with it, too. What we did with that was incredible, with all of the things we had to do, because our country was totally unstocked. We had nothing. Nobody knew what it was. It was this horrible killing dust. But it came out of Wuhan. And I said right from the beginning, it comes out of that lab in Wuhan. And everybody said, he shouldn't say that. He's wrong. He's wrong. It turned out that I was right. With this goal in mind, I will fight to implement major spending reductions by restoring the president's historic impoundment power, which will enable us to cut massive amounts of waste and stupidity. Not good things, but waste and stupidity, and return billions of dollars into the U.S. Treasury. We used to have this, and now we don't. And unlike a guy named Ron DeSanctimonious, has anyone ever heard of him? Very disloyal guy. I got him into office, and then he said, yeah, I guess I'd run against him. Why not? Who voted to gut Medicare. Do you know that DeSantis, that's the abbreviated name, DeSantis wanted to gut Medicare and 3 times voted against Social Security, including raising the retirement age to 70. And one thing I found about politicians, when they have an initial idea, and then they maybe go back. I don't even know what he does. I don't care. He's gotten so low in the polls, we don't watch him very much anymore. He's like crashed. He's crashing. In fact, he lost his big donors today. Did you see? We're not going to support him anymore. We don't like him. They're calling me now. You know, it's funny. I get calls. Hi, President Tai. I thought you were this. Oh, no. We love you. We think you're great. I said, oh, good. What are my poll numbers? I guess that's the reason. That's the only reason. And I'm getting all these calls from his donors. Hi, President, how you doing? How have you been? Let's have dinner. I said, why do you want to have dinner? We want to support you, sir. We think you're doing a great job. And that's only because he crashed. I mean, he's crashing like a dog. I've never seen anything like it, actually. But you need a personality to win. You got to remember, he came to me and he asked me for help. He was losing. He was at like 3% to a guy named Adam Putnam in Florida. And Adam Putnam, and we can tell the story because this is largely a political dinner because of Drew. I mean, you know, it's like, Drew, is it okay to tell the story? I think so. It's too late, Drew. I can't stop now. But what happened is he came to see me, and he said, I need your help. What do you need my help for? I didn't know him that well, but I saw him on television fighting impeachment hoax #1 and impeachment hoax #2, along with 200 other people. But he was one of the people, so I figured, and I didn't know Adam Putnam. He was the Secretary of Agriculture. And he came in and he said, I need your help. I said, let me tell you, Ron, you're so far behind that if we brought Abraham Lincoln and George Washington together back from the dead, there's not a damn thing they could do. No. He goes, no, sir, if you endorse me, I'm telling you, they really love you in Florida. If you endorse me, I'll win. And I thought about it, and then I said, what the hell? I didn't know the other guy. And I said, all right, let's do it. I wrote up a beautiful endorsement. I put it out. He became like a rocket ship. And within 24 hours, he was leading. Everybody knows this story is very true. He's actually acknowledged it. It's all over the place. Thank you very much. What you've done for my career, my family. He said, we will build a wall. He said, telling this kid, did you ever see that one? We are going to build a wall, like Mr. Trump said. So he ends up winning. Then I had to get him by this guy named Gillum. Gillum was the hottest politician in the Democrat Party other than Stacey Abrams, the two of them. They were the two hot politicians, Stacey Abrams and this guy. And he was running, and Ron didn't think he could beat him. He calls me, could you do a rally? Then he calls me, could you do a second rally and a third rally? We did, I think, 3 rallies, and massive crowds. And I said, Ron, you're going to win. Anyway, he wins. 4 years later, they say, will you run against the president? And he goes, I have no comment on that. I said, did that guy say he has no comment? That means he's running. That son of a bitch, he's going to run against me. So that's a little political story, and I started hitting him very hard very early. I hit him so hard, I don't think he knows what the hell happened, actually. He's still trying to figure out. Today he was in New Hampshire. He's campaigning. He had a big thing. They were advertising it for 2 weeks. 7 people showed up, 7 people. So he doesn't know what the hell hit him. He got hit by a very, very big hammer. But, you know, you got to do that. And then my people would tell me, sir, don't hit him that hard. He's a Republican. I said, I don't give a damn if he's a Republican. So it's one of those things, but he's dying a pretty quick death. He should stop. You know, he could have had 28. I think he could have probably been in pretty good shape, although, you know, you still have to campaign. It's not easy. This is not an easy business. People come out, they think they're going to have 28. But then they got to run against guys like Lindsey Graham and McMaster and some of the people. It's not easy. But he was in good shape to do, but I think I don't think he's going to be electable anywhere, and that's okay with me. But I will always protect, unlike the sanctimonious, I will always protect Medicare, and I will always protect Social Security. But remember, when they go against Social Security, and then they say, oh, I love Social Security, they always end up going back to those things and doing what their original instinct is. I've seen it over the years, hundreds and hundreds of times. We need people with courage, not a former South Carolina governor who's afraid to show up at this beautiful event. You got to show up at these events, Nikki. Oh, did I say that? All I know is somebody else had Nikki and I had Henry and I had Peggy. And they went out and they didn't stop and we won and we won. I'll never forget that night. That was a great night, Henry. Right? I said, I wanted Nikki. I helped her a lot over the years. I wanted Nikki, and she went with somebody else. I said, but I got lucky because I got Henry, and I'll take Henry anytime. We did a great job. That was some campaign, right, Henry? And we did better the second time, actually. We did better. Actually, we got many millions of more votes the second time, you know that. Our opponents know that no one can beat us on the economy. This is going to be largely about the economy, but it's also going to be about the border. Nobody can have a border like that. You see what's happening in our cities. Nobody can have a border like that. I really think, you know, everyone tells me, it's about the economy, sir. But, you know, I won on the border in 2016. The border was a big deal in 2016 because it was a disaster, nothing like it is now. But then guys like Tom Homan, I got them involved, and Brandon Judd, Border Patrol, the ICE people. These are incredible people. They want to see something good happen for our country. But I got them involved. We had the greatest border. But I did such a good job when I ran in the first time with the border that with 2020, it no longer became an issue. It wasn't an issue. The border had nobody ever mentioned border. So sometimes you can do such a good job that it hurts you politically. I said, does anybody want to talk about the border? Sir, that's down to the last thing that anybody, because I stopped human trafficking largely. Brought drugs down to the lowest level they've been in 37 years. I had a deal worked out with President Xi. He was going to give the death penalty to people that had anything to do with sending drugs in through Mexico, and you know the particular drug, which is the worst, which happens to be made. He was going to criminalize it. But when I was out, he was happy because he didn't have to do any of that. He didn't have to do any of that. They were going to criminalize it, and they were going to make it so painful that it would have stopped. We were doing a hell of a job, and we did so good, though, that we did such a great job that it no longer became a subject. It was never a debate subject. Nobody ever mentioned the border. And these clowns got in, and right from the beginning, they opened up the country. They welcomed everybody, and as soon as they welcomed, everybody came in. Now they want to give them free education, free hospital. In the meantime, we don't take care of our veterans, okay? Our veterans are laying out all over the streets. It's a horrible thing they've done to our country. So, sort of in closing, when they asked who's the best to improve the economy, it's Trump just came in, big poll. Trump just came in at #1 by a lot, 54%. DeSanctimonious was at 18%. That was in Iowa. In New Hampshire, it's 55-11. And in South Carolina, it's 60-12. That's pretty good. And in Nevada, it's 65-10, 65% to 10%, and all the rest are in very low single digits. In the most recent Rasmussen poll just came out, we're up by 44 points. We're way, way up, and DeSantis is falling into the single digits, we think, probably very soon. And even last week's New York Times poll, I mean, the New York Times does me no favors, that I can tell you. We're up by 37 points, which is amazing, and DeSantis has fallen very dramatically. I think he's gonzo, but, you know, I say you're never gone until you're gone, right? As Yogi would say, it ain't over till it's over, right? But I think they've fallen very dramatically. A lot of the candidates have fallen very dramatically. They're at a level that I would think can't come back, I would think. We're dominating Biden in the general election, very importantly. The Harvard-Harris poll has us up by 5 points, and they have us up 18 points among independents. You know, they keep saying, well, will Trump get the independents? We're up 18 points with the independent. And the new and very big poll, the premise poll, we're beating Biden by a lot, and DeSantis is losing to Biden by a lot. So a lot of incredible numbers are coming along. We have a primary season with Crooked Joe Biden as a weaponized and horrible, horrible law enforcement group that are just, it's sick what's going on. Have you ever seen anything like what's going on? I mean, I never heard the word indictment. Then all of a sudden, over a period of a couple of weeks, you get 4 indictments. They do this to try and win an election. Nobody ever thought it was possible. It's done in third world countries. It's not done in this country. And as Henry said, those indictments aren't worth the paper they're written on. They're not worth, they took away free speech. I mean, in one case, you have the Presidential Records Act. I'm allowed to do whatever. You got to read it. I read it to people. As soon as you read it, they say, oh, I have no idea. They didn't know that. But in the other case, it's free speech. This means that we cannot ever criticize or look after election. Once that happens, you have tyranny. We can't look at elections. We cannot criticize. Well, Hillary Clinton criticized, and all of these, Stacey Abrams still hasn't conceded. I mean, all of these people criticize. I mean, you would have half of Congress right now in jail. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. He is criticizing the election. And let me tell you, there's a lot to criticize, which you'll find out over the coming weeks. Isn't it terrible that a political opponent, though, can haphazardly charge you with a fake crime in the middle of your campaign in order to interfere with your time, your money, your message, and there is nothing you can do in theory to stop this travesty of justice? Isn't that a shame? You have a campaign, you're doing well, and think of it, they had 2.5 years to file this thing. 2.5 years, more than that. But they had 2.5 years long before the campaign started. They could have filed this 2.5, almost 3 years ago. But it's another Russia hoax. And it shouldn't be allowed to happen. The fake charges put forth by the Biden sham, we call it a sham indictment. And the man that's doing it, I really believe he's mentally ill. But these are outrageous, and it is an outrageous criminalization of political speech. They're trying to make it illegal to question the results of an election. By the way, you have to see the pundits, even pundits that hate me with a passion, very liberal, very far left, they're saying, you can't do that. You're not going to have anything left. But only a party that cheats at elections would make it illegal to question those elections. That's the only ones that would really make it difficult. If you can't challenge a rigged election, think of it. We're not looking to do it. We want, they don't go after the people that rigged the election. They go after the people that want to find out what the hell happened. It's a disgrace. They should be going after the people that rigged it. But you don't have strong borders and you don't have good elections. You really don't have a country. So they rigged the presidential election of 2020. And we're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election of 2024 because our country's not going to survive. Joe Biden is the most incompetent and corrupt president in United States history. The Biden crime family was taking in money from China, Ukraine, Russia, and many, many other countries. And now, whenever more Biden corruption is exposed, his henchmen charge me with crimes. Every time we are going to have a meeting, they announce Jim Jordan, Jamie Comer, we're going to have a meeting tomorrow with Archer. We're going to have a meeting tomorrow. And they end up indicting me that same time because I get a lot of publicity. So this way, nobody knows what's going on. It's called a cover-up. Every time the radical left Democrats do this and the Marxist, communist, fascist indict me, I consider it a great badge of honor because I'm being indicted for you. I am being indicted for you. I don't like that deal so much, by the way. I don't like that deal, but that's okay. No, I'm being indicted for you. I'm being indicted because of what we've done, and I'm being indicted because they're afraid of all of us, because we have a movement that's never been seen in the history of our country. Make America Great Again, MAGA. It's never been seen. There's never been anything like this. And never forget, our enemies want to stop us because we are the only ones who can stop them. We're the only ones. And this is why this election is so important. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. I'll never let that happen. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just standing in their way, and I will never stop standing in their way. You're going to be protected. I promise you this. If you put me back in the White House, their reign will be over, and America will be a free nation once again. We're not a free nation right now. We're not a free nation. We have no borders. We have horrible, horrible, unsafe elections, and we have a absolutely dishonest and crooked press for the most part. We have a dishonest press, and you people should be ashamed of yourselves. They don't even write about all of these crimes that they don't write. You look at the mainstream media, they find millions and millions of dollars going into Biden's account, and they don't even write a story about it. It's hard to believe. And they should be ashamed of themselves. From the first day in office, I will appoint a special prosecutor to study each and every one of the many claims being brought forth by Congress concerning all of the crooked acts, including the bribes from China and many other countries that go into the coffers of the Biden crime family. It's often said that Republicans don't fight hard enough, and I agree with that. They don't fight hard enough. They're very good people, but they don't fight. They have other assets, but they don't fight hard enough, many of them. But they don't say that about Trump, and I think it's one of the reasons that we're doing so well. We fight like hell, but boy, sometimes we gotta have these Republicans step up. The senators have to step up. Some congressmen have to step up. And you'll see that on the first day of my presidency, the deep state, which is destroying our nation, the tables will turn, and we will destroy the deep state. We're going to destroy the deep state. In just 4 short years, we already achieved more than any administration in the history of our country. If you take a look at what we've done, there's been no administration that has done what we've done. So many things. We appointed over 300 federal judges and 3 great Supreme Court justices. Look at what happened even just the other day. And last year, those justices ruled to end Roe v. Wade. And I have to tell you, for pro-lifers have now a tremendous power to negotiate, which they didn't have before the ruling. They have to understand how to talk about it. Because Republicans, you're going to have to learn how to talk about it. You have something that everybody said was not doable, but you have to understand it and you have to know how to talk about it. This moves the issue back to the states where all legal scholars wanted it. On both sides, they wanted it back in the states. President Ronald Reagan liked me, but he felt very, very strongly about supporting the 3 exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. And a lot of people agree with that. A lot of people in the Republican Party, most people, but you have to go your heart. You have to follow your heart. You have to do what you think is right, but felt very, very strongly about it. Remember, the Democrats are the radicals on this issue because they are willing to kill babies in their 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th month, and even after birth. That's radical. That's far more radical than the Republicans are, but they've energized this issue, and the Republicans are going to have to learn how to fight it. The Democrats are the extremists on this issue. And if you think about it, what we have been able to do, bring it back to the states, but we've given you tremendous negotiating power. You had none because they could do whatever they wanted. They could kill all the babies. They could kill them even after birth. And there are some places that give actually legislation after birth. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. They are the radicals. You now have a tremendous power to negotiate, which you've never had, and this will all work out. But you have to be able to speak about the subject. I fully rebuilt the U.S. military, created Space Force, defeated ISIS, and brought our troops back home. We had tremendous victories. We knocked out 100% of the ISIS caliphate. And I was the first president in decades who didn't start a war. We didn't start a war. We actually completed a lot of wars. But all of that was just the beginning. Here's some of the agenda that we'll immediately implement when we become, all of us together, become 47th President of the United States and my representatives. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after I win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. I know them both very well. We will get it settled. It should have never happened. Should have never happened. All the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dead people. The number of people dead is far greater than what you're hearing, but we will get it settled immediately, and fairly settled, not for one side or the other. We'll get it fairly settled. And I'm the only candidate who can make this promise to you, and this is a very big promise because I think we're in very big trouble. I will prevent World War III. I will prevent World War III. It's very important because the weaponry today is so powerful, nuclear weapons and other things, but the weaponry today, this isn't two army tanks, Second World War, First World War, going back and forth shooting. The weaponry is so powerful today that it's an obliteration of the world. I will make sure it doesn't happen, and I do believe I'm the only one that's going to be able to do that. I will totally obliterate the deep state, and I will fire the corrupt bureaucrats who have weaponized our justice system, our once beautiful justice system that's now totally corrupt. I will immediately terminate every open borders policy of the Biden administration. And following the Dwight Eisenhower, he was very tough on the border. Nobody knows that, but he was very, very tough on the border. But following that model, the Eisenhower model, we will use all necessary state, local, federal, and military resources to carry out the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. You know, there's a recent story in one of the newspapers that they were in a South American country and they were interviewing a psychiatrist who was sitting at a table, and they said, "How long have you worked at this hospital?" A large mental institution, insane asylum actually, but it's a mental, they say, please don't use that word. But it was a mental institution. He said, "I've been here for 22 years, and I've been so busy. I worked so hard. Every hour of every day I worked. But now I don't have any patients. This is a big, big deal." He said, "Where are your patients?" "They've all been brought into the United States." Essentially what he's saying is they've been brought here, they've been dumped into the United States. So he's sitting there in this big, massive hospital, and he said, first time it's ever happened. Good man, by the way. But he said the truth. "I have no patience. They've emptied their jails. They've emptied their mental institutions, and terrorists are flowing into our country at a level never seen before. What Biden is doing to our country is not even believable. Who would think that it's even possible? They're coming in. We have no idea who they are, where they're from. Last week we had 147 different countries represented, people coming in from 100. Most people don't even know that you have that many countries, and you actually have more. But 147 countries were represented last week alone coming into our country. We have no idea who these people are, where they come from. Most people never even heard of the names of the countries. What's happening at our border, what's happening in our country, what's happening with inflation and the stupid energy policies which started inflation, it's not even believable. I will use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries, and I'll do it immediately. And to stop the Marxist prosecutors who release rapists and murderers while persecuting Republicans and conservatives, Christians, Catholics. The Catholic Church is under siege by these crooked prosecutors, but they have people that murder, and they know where they are, and they don't do anything about it. I will direct a completely very, very powerful overhaul of the DOJ. We're not going to have cowards. We're not going to have cowards like Bill Barr, who, when he heard, "Sir, I'm going to be impeached. They're going to impeach me, sir. They're going to impeach me." I said, "That's okay. I got impeached twice. My numbers went up. Don't worry about it, Bill." "No, sir, they're going to impeach me." Now, how do you not get impeached? You do everything they want you to do. He was a coward. But we're not going to have people like that. We had great people in this administration, by the way. We had some bad ones, too. But we had great people in this administration. When you think that we rebuilt our military, we defeated ISIS. We also have great generals. We have phenomenal generals, phenomenal leaders, but not the ones you see on television, real ones. And we did so great with ISIS. I was told ISIS would take 3 to 4 years. We did it in 4 weeks because we had some generals that were unbelievable that I met, that I have great respect for. Our military is potentially incredible, but they've gone woke. The military hasn't. They want them to go. These sick people want them to go woke, and we don't let that happen. But to investigate every radical DA and AG, and they all coordinate, you know, the Democrats, they all coordinate with the DOJ. But we're going to investigate every single one in America for their illegal, racist, and reverse enforcement of the law. Because we can't have a country like this. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our beautiful children. And as you know, you've heard me say it many times, I will keep men out of women's sports. How ridiculous is that? How ridiculous is that? And I will sign a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. Think of how ridiculous that is. Think of how. Supposing it's 10 or 15 years ago, I'm going to stop child sexual mutilation. Does anybody have to even say that? Can you imagine? But today you have to say it because that's what they do. They mutilate. These people are sick. They mutilate without parents' permission. What they do to our children, they're destroying so much. I will also restore the Trump ban on transgender in the military. I had a ban on transgender in the military, which was very good, very good. And they ended it like in the first couple of weeks of this failed administration. But just as I did 4 years ago, I will fully uphold the Second Amendment. I will hold, you have your rights, you have your rights. You know, they want to defund the police and they also want to take away your guns. No, you can't do that, especially where we are right now as a nation. You can't do that. I will secure all of our elections. We will have secure elections, and our goal will be one-day voting with paper ballots and voter ID. Very simple. You know, France did it. France had mail-in ballots, and they were a disaster, and they went to paper ballots and voter ID, and it was one-day voting, and they had 36 million votes, and they had a winner and a loser. Everyone went home, and now they're focused on their next election in 2 years. But until then, Republicans have to win. We have to win in 2024. We have to be able to do all these things we want to do with so much. We did so much, and we can do so much more. We want to make this even a better administration. We had judges, all of the things we did. I mean, all of the things we did, even medically, right to try. For 58 years, they've been trying to get right to try. That's taking our advanced medicines, and if somebody's terminally ill, using that medicine to make a person better, but they couldn't get the approval. So people would either go home and die, they had no money, or if they did have money, they go to Europe, they go to Asia. But we have the greatest labs in the world, and I got it approved, and it wasn't easy. And we got it approved through Congress, by the way. We got it approved, and we're saving tens of thousands of lives. It's an incredible thing where they're able to, you know, the doctors didn't want it because of the risk. The country didn't want it because they didn't want to be sued. The insurance companies didn't want it. The labs didn't. Nobody wanted it except me. And I got it done. And I had everybody sign a piece of paper. You're not going to sue the country. You're not going to sue the labs. You're not going to sue the insurance company. They're terminally ill people. And many of those terminally ill people are now living and very happily. It's an incredible success. Nobody talks about it, but I'm very proud of it. Right to try. And I hope nobody in this room needs it, okay? I hope nobody needs it, but it's an incredible thing we did. And we can use these space age, these incredible things that are coming out that won't be approved by the FDA maybe for 5, 6, 7 years. I got it from 12 years down to 5 or 6, and we can do even better. But it takes a long time to get it approved for a lot of good reasons. It takes a long time. We cut it in half. But you know what? A lot of people are right now living, and many people are living perfect lives because of what they've been able to do and because of a thing called right to try. So this is just a few of the things we're going to do to restore our country to greatness. The United States is a mess. Our economy is crashing. Inflation is totally out of control. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea have formed together as a menacing and very destructive coalition. Our currency is crashing, and we will soon no longer be the world standard if we keep going at the level we're going, which will be the single greatest defeat in over 200 years. We lose our currency, and if we lose our standard, it won't happen with me. I won't let it happen. It won't even come close. It's not even a chance. Just like Russia would have never invaded Ukraine and China would never have even thought about raiding Taiwan, and we would have had a much different outcome in Afghanistan. You know, I got the troops down to a very low number. We were going to keep Bagram, by the way. Keeping the big Air Force base was so important, and you're right. We gave up Bagram. They left one night. The lights were on. They left the dogs, by the way. Everyone said, did they take the dogs? No, they left the dogs. But we were going to keep Bagram, and that's where the people should have left from, Bagram, not where they left from. But think of that. That was, in my opinion, the greatest embarrassment in the history of our country. We've never had an embarrassment like Afghanistan. And I went 18 months without one American soldier being killed, 18 months. I spoke to Abdul, the head of the Taliban, still the head. He's now running the whole operation, but he was the head guy. And the media got angry. They said, why is he speaking to him? It's like Jesse James. Why do you rob the banks? I robbed the banks because that's where the money is. Well, I spoke to Abdul because that's where the danger was. He was the head of the Taliban. And I was very tough. I said, look, you do this, you're going to have bad things are going to happen. Bad things. And he said, but why do you send me a picture of your house, of his house, and why? And but I said, bad things are going to happen if you do this. And anyway, it was a good conversation. We didn't lose one soldier, not one, not even shot at, for a period of 18 months. And then we had the change of administrations, and these complete idiots went in, and we had that horrible withdrawal where we took the military out first. No, the military comes out last. They left $85 billion worth of the best equipment anywhere in the world that I bought because I rebuilt the military. Think of it. And we have hundreds of people, maybe thousands of Americans over there living in hell, and we have no idea. But what happened there is the greatest embarrassment in the history of our country, and I think it's largely responsible for Putin to look at that and say, hey, these people are incompetent. I'm going to go and raid Ukraine now. I really believe that. That was such a